chilly autumn night in our quiet uptown town. The moon hung low in the ink-black sky, casting an eerie glow on the empty streets. I found myself alone in the silent halls of my high school, a place that was once bustling with the laughter and chatter of students. Little did I know that this ordinary night would soon turn into a nightmare that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I had fallen asleep in the storage room earlier that day, seeking refuge from the chaos of school life. The cramped space was filled with forgotten books and dusty old furniture, creating a cocoon of solitude. As I woke up in the middle of the night, disoriented and groggy, the dim glow of the emergency lights barely illuminated my surroundings. The school, once familiar and comforting, had transformed into a shadowy labyrinth of uncertainty. My heart raced as I stumbled through the darkened corridors, the only sound of my own echoing footsteps. The air felt thick with an unexplainable tension, as if the very walls were holding their breath. I reached for my phone to call for help, but to my horror, it was dead. Panic began to set in as I realized just how isolated I was. As I cautiously made my way through the school, strange whispers seemed to dance around me, just beyond the edge of my hearing. The occasional flickering of lights above added to the surreal atmosphere. I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Turning a corner, I was greeted by a sight that sent shivers down my spine. The lockers that lined the hallway were swinging open and closed on their own, as if possessed by some unseen force. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath as I let out a shaky gasp. My footsteps slowed as I approached the ominous display, the rhythmic creaking of the lockers filling the silence. Just as I thought things couldn't get any stranger, I heard faint footsteps echoing from behind me. I spun around to find an empty hallway, but the distant sound persisted. It was as if an unseen presence was following my every move. The oppressive darkness seemed to close in around me, suffocating and isolating. As I reached the school's main entrance, I was met with a bone-chilling sight. The once locked doors swung open on their own accord, revealing the desolate town outside. The once familiar streets now looked distorted and otherworldly, as if I had stepped into a parallel dimension. With trepidation, I stepped outside, the cold night air biting at my skin. The town, now shrouded in an unsettling silence, felt like a ghostly mirage. I walked through the empty streets, desperately searching for signs of life. But all I found were abandoned buildings and an oppressive emptiness that clung to the air. As I wandered through the eerily quiet town, a sense of dread settled over me. It was then that I heard the distant sound of children's laughter. My heart skipped a beat as I followed the haunting melody, leading me to the town's abandoned playground. Swings creaked back and forth, propelled by an unseen force, and the laughter grew louder, echoing through the night. In the pale moonlight, I saw shadowy figures moving on the swings and climbing the rusted play structures. Their laughter took on an unnerving, almost malicious tone. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs felt heavy, as if an invisible force held me in place. The figures turned towards me, their faces hidden in the darkness. I felt their gaze pierce through me, sending a chill down my spine. Without warning, the swing stopped moving, and the laughter ceased. The oppressive silence returned, and the shadowy figures began to advance towards me. Their movements synchronized, and unnatural. Panic surged through me as I turned and sprinted through the empty streets, the echoes of their laughter and footsteps haunting my every step. The town seemed to stretch endlessly, the buildings closing in on me like a nightmarish maze. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs ached, but the figures pursued me relentlessly. Finally, I stumbled upon the school once again. With a surge of adrenaline, I burst through the doors and slammed them shut behind me. I collapsed against the cold tile floor, gasping for breath. The oppressive darkness that had engulfed the town seemed to dissipate, leaving me alone in the quiet corridors of the school. As I gathered my wits, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something beyond the veil of reality. The memory of those shadowy figures and their haunting laughter lingered, a chilling reminder of the inexplicable horror I had witnessed. From that night on, the once familiar halls of my high school became a place of dread, and the echoes of that twisted laughter haunted my every step. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that something supernatural lurked in the quiet, uptown town, waiting to reveal itself to those who dared to venture into the darkness. The memory of that night serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying horrors are found in the places we least expect, hidden beneath the facade of the ordinary. As an exchange student, I was thrilled about the opportunity to spend 3 months in Japan. Little did I know that my excitement would turn into sheer terror during my stay at a seemingly ordinary high school in a quaint town. It all started innocently enough. The school, surrounded by cherry blossom trees, had a serene charm that masked the darkness within. On my first day, I was struck by the traditional Japanese architecture and the politeness of my fellow students. However, as the days unfolded, I began to notice strange occurrences that sent shivers down my spine. One gloomy afternoon, I found myself alone in the school library, engrossed in my studies. The air became heavy, and a chill ran down my spine. Glancing up from my books, I saw a figure standing at the end of the aisle, a shadowy silhouette that seemed out of place. The person was wearing a tattered school uniform, and their face was obscured by long, disheveled hair. Fear gripped my heart as I tried to rationalize the presence of this mysterious figure. I mustered the courage to speak. "Hello? Can I help you?" No response. The figure just stood there, staring at me with invisible eyes. I decided to leave the library, my footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. As the days passed, more unsettling incidents unfolded. I started hearing whispers in the hallways when no one was around. The whispers seemed to be in Japanese, a language I struggled to understand. One night, curiosity got the better of me, and I followed the haunting whispers to an abandoned classroom. The room was dimly lit by flickering candles, casting dancing shadows on the walls. In the center of the room, a group of students wearing outdated uniforms sat in a circle, their faces obscured by masks. The atmosphere was charged with an otherworldly energy as they chanted in unison. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to comprehend the dark ritual unfolding before me. Suddenly, the chanting ceased, and the masked students turned to face me. Their eyes, devoid of emotion, bore into my soul. Panic set in as I stumbled backward, desperately trying to escape. The air grew thick with an unnatural force, making it hard to breathe. I sprinted through the dimly lit corridors, the echoes of my footsteps drowned out by the beating of my own heart. I sought refuge in my dorm room, barricading the door as if that would protect me from the malevolent force that seemed to permeate the school. Sleep was elusive, haunted by nightmares of masked figures and ghostly whispers. I became a prisoner in my fear, questioning my sanity as the line between reality and the supernatural blurred. Desperation led me to confide in a sympathetic classmate who reluctantly revealed the grim history of the school. Decades ago, a group of students had committed a series of dark rituals, invoking spirits that were said to linger within the school's walls. Legend had it that those who encountered the vengeful spirits would be tormented until they, too, became part of the paranormal cycle. With a mix of relief and sadness, I bid farewell to the quaint town, leaving behind the haunted school that had become an unexpected chapter in my life. The memory of those 3 months in Japan will forever be etched in my mind. A tale of confronting the supernatural and finding redemption in the most unexpected places. My name is Chloe, and I used to live in a bustling city with towering skyscrapers and fast-paced lives. I was used to the honking of horns and the constant hum of people going about their business. But fate had different plans for me, and my life took a spine-chilling turn when my father's job forced us to move to a provincial town in the middle of the semester. The town seemed like a forgotten relic, frozen in time. Its streets were narrow, lined with ancient buildings that whispered tales of a long-forgotten era. The people had a peculiar way of life, greeting each other with forced smiles, but avoiding eye contact, as if hiding secrets in the shadows. The school I was forced to transfer to was the epitome of provincial living. It was an old building, creaking with every step, and the atmosphere was thick with an unspoken tension. Students huddled in groups, whispering about things that sent shivers down my spine. As I navigated the unfamiliar hallways, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Now and then, I caught a glimpse of someone darting out of sight, their presence leaving behind an unsettling chill. The teachers, too, seemed to be carrying the weight of some dark secret, their eyes haunted as if reflecting the horrors of the town. One day, during a particularly gloomy afternoon, I found myself alone in the school library. The air was heavy with the smell of old books, and the silence was broken only by the occasional rustle of pages. As I scanned the shelves, a faded book caught my eye. Its cover depicted a sinister-looking figure, and curiosity got the better of me. The book spoke of a dark history that the town had buried beneath its quaint facade. Decades ago, a series of gruesome murders had plagued the town, and the school was at the center of it all. The victims were students, and their spirits were said to wander the halls, seeking justice for the horrors inflicted upon them. As the days passed, the supernatural occurrences escalated. Whispers echoed through the empty hallways, and shadows danced on the walls when there was no one around. I started having vivid nightmares, each one more terrifying than the last. The line between reality and the supernatural blurred, and I began to question my sanity. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to explore the school in hopes of unraveling the mysteries that gripped it. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows as I ventured into the heart of the building. The air grew colder, and the distant sound of echoing footsteps sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted, and I could see my breath in the icy air. I felt a presence behind me, an otherworldly force that made my hair stand on end. I turned, and there, in the dim light, I saw the apparitions of the long-dead students. Their eyes glowed with an ethereal light, and a cold wind carried their anguished whispers. Terrified, I stumbled backward, only to find myself face to face with the malevolent force that had haunted the town for decades. The figure from the book, the one on the cover, materialized before me, its hollow eyes piercing through my very soul. It spoke in a haunting voice, recounting the injustices that had been committed and vowing vengeance on those who had wronged them. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The apparitions closed in, their mournful wails echoing in the desolate halls. I felt an icy grip on my arm, and in an instant, I was transported to the night of the first murder. I witnessed the horrors that had unfolded, feeling the pain and fear of the victims as if it were my own. The next morning, I awoke in a cold sweat, convinced that what I had experienced was just a nightmare. But as I walked to school, the air hung heavy with the weight of the past. The whispers persisted, and the shadows seemed to dance with a malevolent intent. As the days passed, the supernatural occurrences continued, each one more horrifying than the last. The line between the living and the dead blurred, and I found myself caught in a nightmarish web of paranormal activity. The town, it seemed, was cursed, and I was now a part of its tragic history. Haunted by the ghosts of the past, I couldn't escape the feeling that the malevolent force was still seeking justice, still hungry for revenge. And as I walked the halls of that accursed school, I couldn't shake the chilling certainty that the horrors of the past were far from over.